Swedish lands to across the Nordics, we raise it up, and the whole town.
Now, we want to explore this white paper and get to understand what lies in the heart of this study that we have and the hidden workforce of the cloud. And we have a daddy to this white paper, and I would like to welcome him onto stage. So please help me in welcoming the Chief Innovation Officer at Salboheds, Patrick Walsh. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you everyone for coming today. As Anna says, I am Patrick Hamilton Walsh, and I am the Chief Innovation Officer at Salboheds. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, my background is actually in finance and law. Working in Ireland, I used to advise some of the world's biggest companies and the world's ultra-high net worth individuals on how to develop their businesses. Before, in 2007, I sold everything I had and I went backpacking around the world for 7 years. And that's how I ended up in Sweden, believe it or not. I went to over 150 countries, wrote multiple books. And over the past few years, I have been given this opportunity to advise some of the world's most forward-thinking governments, cities, regions, and also some of the world's most biggest companies. During that time, I have had the opportunity to write many books and white papers around problems that are unfolding in the world as we become more sort of technologically advanced. So for the past 10 years, I've been living and working in this beautiful society. I've been based out of Stockholm for 10 years. I've been working across Sweden and the Nordics during that time, and I keep getting the same question over and over, which is, why did you choose to live in Sweden? You know, you've been to all these places. What's so special about this one? And to be honest with you, it's all about the people. Swedish people are able to get to heights and get into positions almost, it seems, on every field before everyone else even thinks about it. They're first movers on so many different things. And to be honest with you, data centers is no different. People might not realize this, but Sweden opened up the first data center in September 11, 2008. That was the first modern version of it. But I'm sure everyone knows this famous photograph of the early days of telecommunication, were even back then in 1888, Sweden was ruling the world. And this is the famous Stockholm telephone tower from those days. Data centers, as we know them in the modern era, started in, as I said, 2008. But again, Sweden ruling the world. What people don't know is that there was a thing called centralized commuting facilities, which were set up by the Swedish municipalities combined, which was sort of an early adapter of what data centers became. And of course, as I say about everything, Sweden was always the first to go there, and it continues to this day. And this is why I want to sort of expand a little bit further on the impact of data centers and what we are doing in the Nordics in regard to that, because I want to set the stage here sort of by connecting how these digital ecosystems are actually impacting our everyday life, and also relate it back to the unseen people who are behind it. Unfortunately, there seems to be like a narrative that data centers are something that's sort of built and extract from the communities, don't really give too much back. But what I really want to do today is I want to provide a new objective. I want to put a lens on these and provide a fresh perspective that sort of closes the sort of the knowledge gap and the expectations gap around what data centers are and the importance that they have to the society. So it's as simple as this. Every time you send an email, use your bank ID, book a train ticket to come to an event like this, what you're actually relying on is thousands and thousands of unseen workers, in the background in your local area that turn up for work that day to make that available for you. So this presentation today is about those people, and they're the people that connect us to everyone and everything on Earth, and they are the hidden workforce off the cloud. Everyone has seen this photo. It's a bunch of Irishmen sitting high up in the cloud as they were constructing the Empire State Building. But today in the Nordics, we have teams from all around the world that are helping build for the cloud. This is how far we've come. And to be very open about it from the start, let's just say that when it comes from planning to operation of a data center, a single hyperscale data center can support between 2,000 to 15,000 people. And that's in indirect roles and induced roles. What isn't so obvious is that people don't really think about the plumbers, the suppliers, the baristas, the bus drivers, the teachers that are involved in making all of this happen as we go right out on the ripple. But they're all tied to the cloud in some way. And I have to ask, does anyone know what this is? So I was actually here last week. This is the space where they built the Titanic. This is the Titanic quarter in Belfast. And it's the dock literally where they built the unsinkable ship, and we all know what happened to that. But in the 20th century, shipyards and factories were what was transforming economies. You look at cities like Rotterdam, Belfast, Glasgow, and many others. They were actually the ones that actually enabled us to connect to the world because they were building at that time. But today we're in a situation where data centers are the new shipyards. They are vast, massive in size. They are precise in what they do, and they are essential for our progress as we again connect to the world. So we have went from shipyards to server farms, and that is what our modern world is now based on. I don't need to ask too many of you if you recognize this building, but just like the shipyards of yesterday, the numbers employed in data centers is absolutely vast. During 2025, nearly 2.3 million people all around the world are working with data centers. And to put that into perspective, that's the population of Paris. So this is not small operations that we're dealing with. And to be honest with you, that should be a cause for celebration. We should be high-fiving each other and understanding the fact that, but Dennis just said, there's 2.3 million homes that are getting their mortgages paid, that are being able to buy toys for Christmas and put shoes on the feet of their kids. But actually, when we deal with data centers, it sort of almost feels more like this in the media, where it's, data centers, are using the energy and they're doing all these bad things. We rarely ever hear about the importance of data centers and the good things that they're bringing. So the question is, why does traditional type of factories get such a warm welcome and everyone wants to be part of it and, have a big celebration when they happen? Let's join this PR. The reality is they should have all that because they are so important to society. But what I wanted to do today is I wanted to discuss this. I wanted to be using this white paper to sort of close the expectations gap and the knowledge gap that is around data centers. And I want people to understand that a lot of these data centers are set up in societies which are quite vulnerable, places which are losing talent and are, going into sort of a negative spiral when it comes to the upkeep of them. I'm going to give you one example. Hyundai built this car plant in Alabama. It employed 3,000 people directly, and around the area, it created a further 9,000 supplier jobs. Brilliant news, But data centers also have that same ripple effect, and they are the modern day factories for the digital age. Satya Nadella is the CEO of Microsoft, the most successful they've ever had. And he says the real opportunity in digital infrastructure lies not just in the technology, but in the talent and the communities that they empower. So there is a ripple effect to opening a data center, and I'm going to lay out now just exactly how they work. So there's three elements to it. We have direct jobs in construction and operations. We have indirect jobs in supply chains, and we have the induced jobs, which are in local communities like cafes, schools, transports, hotels. So, to be very blunt, a single large data center employs between 1,000 to 5,000 people during the construction phase. You can see them listed here, from electricians, engineers, project managers, crane operators, the list goes on. That's even before it opens. Once it opens and it's operational, we see these are permanent, high-paying jobs which exist for the duration of as long as that facility is there. These jobs will be required as long as the facility is in operation. Now, This is probably a good time to sort of give you the details on the supply chain multiplier. According to PwC, every direct data center job creates 7.4 more jobs in the supply chain. That's truck drivers, steel workers, HVAC teams, hotel workers, and jobs that ripple out throughout the society. Quickly, I want to look at the second ripple, which is the indirect roles. The first batch of these are the teams that provide the construction materials and those supplying electrical and cooling equipment. The next level is the indirect employment that comes from the local partner firms, such as hardware vendors, software providers. And then we move down to the professional services firms like the engineering, consulting firms, architects, etc. And then ultimately we also have the renewable energy developers, which are vital, particularly in a region like the Nordics. When thousands of workers arrive, communities are transformed. It's a no-brainer. The supply chain around the infrastructure has become one of the most powerful engines of industrial renewal in Europe. And that's coming from the people at Oxford University that spend their whole time looking at this. This is the most important thing we have going on in Europe at the moment. The European Data Center Association has found that for every 1 billion euros that's invested in data center infrastructure, then that generates roughly 13,000 jobs within the EU. And the most important part about those jobs is that 60 to 70% of them are indirect roles in the supporting industries. The trickle-down effect is phenomenal. And that leads me to the induced roles. Induced roles are the jobs that's in the local communities, like cafes, schools, and transport. Hospitality and food. Local restaurants, cafes, pubs, hotels like this are benefiting from us just being here today. They also accommodate a massive influx of staff who are relocating into areas like Katrineholm, Gävle, places like that. Obviously, housing and real estate. We have home construction that goes through the roof. We have real estate services that grow as workers and their families seek housing around these data center areas. And then finally, we have the retail stores. They're making sales every time that people are living and working around the data center areas. We have gym chains, for example, which expand into regions that they didn't normally come into. The schools need to hire teachers for all the new kids in the area. And this is how data reshapes local communities. This is not a data center. If you ask people, mostly outside of our industry, and even some of the people inside it, they'll think it's like 5 people sitting around staring at a screen, sipping tea, and just waiting for their next cup of tea. It's not that at all. This is a good example. This is the beautiful town of Hamina in Finland. And like many of the towns in the sort of outer skirts of, the countryside in Finland, they had a massive problem whenever Nokia collapsed. They lost a lot of their jobs. But Google's data center in this town has boosted housing, expanded schools, and helped the local communities to sort of thrive. And this town of all is a perfect example of when a single data center is what then lifted an entire town of people. It was Diane Green who headed up this whole project for Google Cloud originally. And she says it up front. Data centers are today's factories. Simple as that. They are hubs of productivity, connectivity, and long-term community wealth. And that's key. And sometimes we have to sort of understand the impact they're having on individual people in smaller areas. Microsoft, full credit to them. They have done recent hyperscale data centers investments in Sweden across towns like Gävle, Sandviken, and Staffanstorp. And these stats just illustrate the direct employment impact. 5.3 million work hours, over nearly 13 million peak jobs, and almost 600 permanent roles across these. And again, these are not short bursts. These are career pipelines for 561 people. Sorry. So that's what you're dealing with. So here in the Nordics, we do have a unique edge. We do have abundant clean energy. We do have stable politics. We have a strong skilled workforce, and we have reliable connected grids. And that is our Nordic edge for this entire region. And it's why hyperscalers have had so much great success in this region. If we look at Meta have done in Luleå. The hyperscalers do want to work here, and the region does benefit massively for it. The digital ambition of companies like Meta can completely reshape a city, as seen. Over 2,000 people employed during the construction, 900 sustainable jobs, and probably the best indicator of all, housing prices have doubled. That shows you the impact that it has on demand and supply within a society when you can look at that one stat alone. If we want a digital future that is inclusive and sustainable, we must start by investing in the people and the places behind the clouds. And that's the head of the OECD that's saying that. And the reality is we do have the funds to make those investments. By 2030, the global data center industry will hit $4 trillion, a phenomenal number. And what's more important is that is faster growth than almost all industries in the history of mankind. And don't forget, the Nordics is at the center of that. But like everything else, there is a hidden cost. You know, running data centers doesn't come for free. They do have an impact, and climate and the environment is a blind spot that we always must address, of course. So, of course, we need to take our heads out of the sand. We need to be realistic about the challenges that we're facing on that regard. And within our team at Salboheds, and of course across our industry and everyone we work with, we are fully aware that there are environmental challenges that come with data centers. The critics are constantly highlighting the challenges that exist: energy consumption, water use, land impact, carbon emissions, e-waste. And the critics do raise valid concerns. And of course, the first people we have to look at is ourselves, because it's us that are creating the demand for the use on the data centers. You know, the demand for AI services and cloud and everything else is coming from us as individuals, as we sort of turn off the lights at night and, you know, just quickly check Facebook or whatever that is. So, to be honest, we cannot fully outsource all the blame to the data center operators. They are doing the best they can, and it's not their fault any more than we would outsource the problems to a local water supplier. But don't forget, we are in the Nordics, so we all have these challenges to face, and we all remember the Swedish guy from earlier who was climbing up. Well, he's still climbing, now he's even further up. And the good thing about the Nordics is that people here are genuinely interested in confronting those challenges and finding ways to fix them. And with the support of our Irish friend down there and everyone else holding the rope to help us sort of push ahead in this, you know, towards facing these challenges, we actually can flip the script. We can take the challenges as they are and make them into opportunities. Here in the Nordics, waste heat becomes district heating. Renewable energy expands the grids, and data centers are the ones that are pushing green infrastructures forward in a lot of regards. So we can bridge these issues. In Stockholm, for example, waste heat from data centers warms 30,000 homes. In Finland, Google heats the schools with the recycled energy that comes from the data centers. And this is a core part of the Nordics. This is the circular economy at work, and it's vital to our success here. In addition to that, data centers are also social anchors. There are so many good things that are coming from data centers on a real level. And to be honest, I like this quote so much, because when a data center sponsors a local football team, it's not PR, it's actually civil pride. We have a co-founder at Salboheds, Tom Anderson, and he works diligently every day to ensure that every single sports team across all the sports is sponsored and supported. Dennis just mentioned it here when he was on stage as well. And we sponsor everything in Västerås, but we also sponsor everything from Stockholm Gales to Örebro Hockey, and it seems everything else in between. So we back up this quote 100% within our team, and I know many of the others do, the hyperscalers. From AI courses to football pitches, the data center industry is investing in culture, in sports, and in education. At Salboheds, Dennis has made a commitment towards building paddle courts, bike trails, playgrounds, whatever. Because don't forget, we are the groundworks team. Whatever way we leave the ground when we go last off the site is what we leave it with. So it's easy for us to make sure that we leave something back for the society. And it's a brilliant commitment that Dennis has made. Nordic nations aim to make digital growth strategic and sustainable. In fairness to the governments here, they do tie tax breaks to heat reuse, to training, to employment of local people, and also job creation. And this type of work in the cloud, it's not hype. It's not just for headlines from politicians and things. They understand that this is the next industrial revolution in the jobs. So before I finish, I just want to look into one last project that shows a project that is being developed now. This one's out of the UK. It's obviously under NDA, so it's called DC01 UK. And this is a hyperscale project that illustrates the scale of economic uplift that a single facility can bring to its region. Nearly 4 billion in construction, over 20 million in just taxes and local rates every day or every year. 500 people are being employed during the construction phase. There's 200 permanent jobs that are coming out of it when it's completed. And this one, nearly 14,000 indirect jobs from the single facility outside London. And gross value added annually is more than £1.1 billion to the British economy. So that is the real story behind the title, The Hidden Workforce of the Cloud. And it's because we don't often see the faces of the hard-working teams that are out putting in a shift every day for us. And the hidden workforce of the cloud isn't just technicians, it's the teams of electricians, teachers, baristas, students. Because global tech does drive local prosperity, and the digital infrastructure is now the new backbone of inclusive growth. It connects people, places, and purpose. At Salboheds, we don't just build data center foundations. We're trying to build the trust, the skills, and the communities around them. And our goal is inclusive growth. We want to build the cloud scale, and we want everyone that's around us to be involved in it as well. Because to be honest with you, it's all about the next generation and how they find their place in the world when they go looking for it. So the question is, what do we do that puts a smile on their face and lights up the world for them? Because one thing's for sure, the times, they are changing. Change brings turbulence. Turbulence brings opportunity. And as an Irish immigrant in this great society, this is sort of my gift to you today. I hope it was insightful for you in some regard. And if you have ever got any questions at all, please reach out and please connect to us at Salboheds, because we're always looking to work with good people and do good things. So please connect to us, and thank you for having us in today.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Just one thing before you leave stage. I'm sorry, I cannot just let you leave. Yes, I want a question. So sorry about that. I was thinking, I cannot stop thinking about the photo of the Irish iron workers.
Yeah.
On top of that, up in the clouds. I think this photo was taken in 1932, or actually I Googled it, sorry.
You're right, yeah.
And what they were doing is called lunch atop of a skyscraper. And what they were doing was that they were creating the modern New York. And I think that this is something big. If we were to think of how we would do that today, because I'm a cultural anthropologist, and the last research I did, or the latest research I did, was about Generation Z, our youngsters born in between 1997 and 2012. And one thing that really struck me when I was doing that research is that what they feel is it touched me very deeply, because they feel very lonely and alone. Our young people feel very up to 60% of them. Wow. They suffer from loneliness. And I think that, when we create these new jobs and when we create the new society, we must think of that. And this is exactly what you're doing. We're thinking about sports and about communities and creating a meeting point. So what, Patrick, if we were to make a new photo in 2025 of creating the new society when we're creating these data centers, what would that be?
I think it might look like some of the photos I showed at the end,
Yeah.
which is young people coming together and seeing a bright future for themselves. We're going to see the entire world of work change over the next 5, 10, 15 years, but it's going to move. AI will take a lot of jobs, but it will create multiple new jobs.
Absolutely.
And in other presentations I have a photograph of the horseless carriage. So the horseless carriage is what we now know as the car. And whenever they were introducing the horseless carriage, the main sort of criticism at that day was like, what are we going to do about all the jobs? They're going to be lost for people who make horseshoes and grow hay and deliver hay. But just look at what the car industry has provided, with customizations and everything that comes with it. I think it's the same. And I think we have to give kids hope.
Yeah.
I think a lot of loneliness comes from lack of hope and lack of connection. And honestly, the thing I'll say about Salboheds, Dennis, Peter, Tom, they actually do care about the local society, and it's why they're so interested in making sure that all the sports teams, like we actually sponsor the youth teams as well in the academies of like VSCO and things like that. So we want to see people come together. Like this is a mental health thing as well.
I think so.
All that hope solves a lot of the problems.
I think so.
And credit to these guys because they actually put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
A warm round of applause for Patrick.